And just listening to those words, guilty and guilty and guilty on all counts. This is monumental. This is historic. This is a pivotal moment in history.
And hopefully our country take a turn in the right direction today. And this day in history proves that it was a turning point.
This is going to be the first in a future of change. I promise you that.
Powerful messages tonight from the family of George Floyd as the officer who killed him is found guilty today on all 3 charges: second-degree unintentional murder, third-degree murder, second-degree manslaughter. Derek Chauvin was taken from the courtroom today in handcuffs as he now awaits sentencing in about 8 weeks. Today's verdict was a huge victory for George Floyd's family and so many others calling for an end to police brutality and racial inequality all across our country. We saw crowds hugging and crying in Minneapolis today after gathering to hear the jury's decision. And tonight, people surrounding George Floyd Square celebrating today's win. But they say this is just the beginning of their fight for justice. Our Steve Jefferson was in Minneapolis tonight to get a closer look at the mood outside the courthouse.
I'm Steve Jefferson in downtown Minneapolis. This is the celebration after a jury found Derek Chauvin guilty on all 3 charges in his murder trial in the death of George Floyd. I'm going to step out of the way and give you a look. There are literally hundreds of people still downtown celebrating the verdict as they waited to hear, knowing that the jury will deliver that verdict today. Derek Chauvin again found guilty on all 3 charges. Many of the people here say this is not just about getting a guilty verdict, but it's about police reform. They said this hopefully is the beginning of justice and the beginning of a change when it comes to policing.
Now, as Steve mentioned there from Minneapolis, with Chauvin's sentencing in a couple of months, the focus now turns to the other work needed to be done: tackling systemic racism, police reform, and equity for all Americans, regardless of race.
We can't leave this moment or look away thinking our work is done. We have to look at it, we have to look as we did for those 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
A measure of justice isn't the same as equal justice. We still must reform the system.
Last month, the House passed the George Floyd Justice and Policing Act, sending it on to the Senate, where it faces an uphill battle. This bill aims to overhaul practices like qualified immunity for officers and use of chokeholds. But change doesn't have to start or stop on Capitol Hill. Tonight, our Alan Carter talks with several Hoosiers about the differences they want to see.
Andrea Neely felt like she's been here before.
That's why there's the anxiety and the angst, because you know, you want to be so confident, but then you be just like...
Awaiting a verdict in a racially charged case with national importance.
Things like this only brings back up memories.
A regional executive with the United Negro College Fund, for her, issues of race are inescapable. And on this day, watching and hoping.
I can't.
Eddie, thank you very much.
There's no way it's coming back not guilty. There's no way.
So yeah, there was relief.
Second-degree manslaughter, culpable negligence.
When the words guilty were repeated 3 times.
Guilty.
All 3.
20th day, and to advise you further.
Thank you.
All rise for the jury.
Just because he was found guilty doesn't mean we now entered into a truly just society. We're not there yet.
Daryl Heller is a civil rights historian at IU South Bend, and while he's happy with the verdict, he says it's not a celebratory moment.
We need to make sure that another George Floyd doesn't happen. And so there's a lot of work that needs to continue on police reform, on accountability, on transforming structures, particularly the disparities between, that happen for Black people.
something Neely fills from her living room.
Why were we so scared that we couldn't get the results that we just got? Why were we so scared? We shouldn't be. That if this is this blatant, it should be that we should get justice. I feel like we're vindicated, and I shouldn't feel this way.
Guilty on all counts against.
Why should we feel vindicated on something that was obvious?
We also talked tonight with a local defense attorney about this trial and what she wants to see moving forward. She recommends officers holding each other accountable as an avenue to mending broken relationships within the community.
I would hope that officers would continue to stand up and say, no, this is wrong. This is not what we're about. This is not the way in which we're trained, because ultimately the police officers should be able to expect the community to work together with them. There should not be this blue line where we as community members are on one side and they're on the other. So I would sure hope that when their fellow officers' behavior is not consistent with protecting and serving, that they would continue to speak out about that.